Welcome to a special DTV segment at InfoBrew, and we're looking forward to having a great conversation about continuous testing with Deven Samant and Manish Mathuria. Manish is the CTO of InfoStretch, and Deven runs the DevOps practice. I'm Avery Lyford, the Chief Customer Officer of InfoStretch, and look forward to a great conversation. Cheers.
Cheers.
Continuous testing. I keep hearing about it. So what is it? What's it all about?
Well, continuous testing is all about testing your software early in the stage as you are building the software, rather than waiting for a typical release cycle and then going through and testing it after it is released from the development cycle. So it is important that you test your software as early as possible as you are developing it. And that's what continuous testing is all about. But it's not just about software testing, but it's more than that. You need to take care of your code quality. You need to take care of your performance tests. You need to take care of how you are going to parallelize and optimize your testing as well. So it is the entire gambit that you need to take into consideration as well.
So you're right, Deven, right? This is often confused with just automation. So continuous testing is a lot more than automation. It's the process of making automation effective towards your agile practices, right? It's actually engaging automation to give you the early indicators of your software quality at the right time and giving you enough of the information such that you can promote your software to the next stage of testing.
So I hear a lot about this in like kind of the web first companies. Is this something that can be done if you've got a backlog and a history? Because it doesn't seem so simple if you come from a waterfall and you've got a huge established beta test cases.
Well,
what do you do in that situation?
I would say that's the first myth, right? That it is possible. It is possible. We have done it multiple times here at InfoStretch with our client partners. It's important to first break it down on different level, right? How you are going to provide the right trigger, okay, how you're going to prune and optimize your backlog that you have in your test cases in your waterfall model, how you are going to qualify the quality, the best quality that you have, and how you're going to provide the triggers or rather the feedback that is needed to qualify what you have achieved out of your testing cycles. So it's very important. So if you go through step by step in this particular process, you should be able to achieve that. Okay, yes, it is a mammoth task, and that can definitely be achieved. So it's a first myth, and I would like to completely debunk that myth in this particular talk. Yeah.
So get the right coverage, get the right triggers, get the right gates, get the right reports, and the path. If not easy, it's certainly a path that's achievable.
Commonly when we think about automation or continuous testing, right, you're just looking at testing the user interface, right? Getting continuous testing right also is very important to realize that you need to test all layers of software. So test all the APIs, test the components underneath, do significant unit testing, right? Unless you do all of those things, right, just doing automation is not going to cut it.
Now, the other thing, I've seen a lot of other industries, like one of the interesting ones is radiology. All of a sudden, you can use AI to do diagnostics. Mm-hmm. How can you apply AI? Is there a play for AI when it comes to continuous testing?
Absolutely. And I talked earlier about test pruning and optimization, and that is one place to start with, to be honest. You have a large backlog, say hundreds and thousands. We have large customers where we have worked, where there are thousands of use cases or test cases, and then you are working through them, understanding what these test cases are, what kind of a coverage that they provide, how they are relevant to the component that you are actually decomposing and using in your agile process is very important. And that is where AI can play a significant role. Machine learning, especially going through your backlogs, going through your Jira use cases that you have, and actually understanding what is relevant, what is not relevant, and providing you that optimization is what you can actually achieve. And we have built accelerators which actually can provide you those facilities as you go. The next step that you're going to look at is actually running. So you have now created this optimized backlog that is relevant to your test automation, and you want to run those automations in your continuous testing pipeline. How are you going to optimize your resources? That is another important one. What are your gating criteria? What are you testing for? What is your definition of done? All these things can be aided through machine learning and the data that you have learned in your previous execution cycles.
It reminds me a little bit like every once in a while, if you've got a ship in the water, it gets barnacles, you got to pull it every once in a while and just scrape it all clean. Mm-hmm. And this is a good opportunity to go do that when you're making a transition from waterfall environments to kind of in sprint, agile, automated, continuous testing. Is that a fair statement?
True, absolutely true. And continuous testing ultimately is all about delivering with confidence and with an agility and a higher velocity, right? More AI and more learning that you're going to bring in and let more machine decides for you, efficient you're going to be, and your confidence is going to be high.
Yeah, there's sometimes stuff that's 10 years old that you're dealing with that you've got to somehow handle. How do you deal with some of these problems?
You're absolutely right? So where enterprises today are, right, they're just kind of scratching the surface of test automation. From there, how do you get to continuous testing, right? It's a complex but very achievable path. And in our experience, what we find is most companies are just kind of starting to do automation barely well enough. Like I think you pointed out, Deven, it's an opportunity to do a lot of cleanup activity. Mm-hmm. So, the first thing is that are your tests right? What happens in the enterprise is, over many years, you have like these hundreds of thousands of test cases. It accumulates. There's a lot of, poor tests, lengthy tests. There's a lot of repetition in there. So that pruning is very important.
Yes. And once you have this backlog pruning is done, another thing that you need to understand is how this new revised code that you have, the test automation code, what kind of coverage it is giving, whether that is syntactically, semantically correct or not. So the whole test assurance.
What do you mean by semantically versus syntactically?
So, you can have the same test case written by two different individuals doing exactly the same test. And there are scenarios that we have seen, for example, in kind of a login page that you are testing, a login and log on kind of changes also we have seen. But to understand that this is the same test case and provide that kind of an optimization by identifying this is the same intent that have identified the intent detection through AI and finding out this is the same test case and using it is very important. And this is what we have done it in our practices, because it's very important to let machine make these decisions with the confidence rather than creating the churn that is going through today.
Well, some things I've heard you guys talk about is it for the reporting. Because I'll never forget, there was a customer, I said, do you know where you stand on your different sprints? And he pointed at his computer and he said, the answer is in there somewhere. I get all of these reports every day, and I know that somewhere in one of those reports is the answer to your question.
True.
Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with that?
See, today, in these pipelines, we use so many tools, right from Jenkins, and we have different code analysis tools that are there, and then the testing tools are there. They all spreading out a lot of logs.
Yes.
Aggregating those logs and providing the reports that are of interest for different personas, because when you are looking at these things, there are different people and different interests that they have from these reports, and it's important that they get what they are looking for, and creating a right reporting dashboard for a persona that is looking for a particular data is very important, and that is what people should actually look for when they are migrating towards continuous testing framework.
Well, if you don't get the right reports, you can't possibly make the right decision.
Yeah,
right, and the real-timeness of this reporting, right? So the only way to do it is through a live dashboard, right? Because continuous testing is all about having a continuous integration process, and the moment a build gets checked in, you want to start the unit testing and post that do all the follow-up stages, right? With the right quality gates at every level. Mm-hmm. And you want to see that visually, because when a build fails through any of those stages, you want to know why it failed so that you can take action on it.
Well, also I think you'd be able to look at the risk associated with the release.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. And this whole definition of a done part that I talked about, right? In essence, how are you going to make that risk assessment? These are the tools that are going to help you make those decisions more efficiently. It helps the product managers to make the decisions, the release engineers to make the decisions, as well as the development managers to improve the things so that the next cycle the same mistakes cannot be repeated, right? So that's very important. That feedback loop in any of such processes is a very important aspect of the test automation.
Well, it's key. I mean, as the world changes so quickly, sometimes you have to respond to a competitor, and you can't wait for perfection. You got to be good enough.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct.
Well, this has been really. First of all, I always enjoy having a beer with you guys, and I think what I heard is that there's an understood path. This is a tricky. It's doable in the real world. It's not just some fantasy of unicorns that started with a green field, but the real companies can do this in the real world, and it's well understood things of how do you make sure you get the right coverage, how do you make sure the right tests are running for the right kinds of decisions that you want to go make, and then that you also know the gates and the results, and then finally you can report all that to people to make decisions.
Right.
Well, look, it's been great. Appreciate you guys making and listening to our whole talk. If you've got thoughts on this program or recommendations for other things you want to do in the future, please write an email to dtv@infostretch.com, and look forward to you subscribing and look forward to providing more in the future. Thank you.